2026 is the year a lot of people who've never had travel problems suddenly get pulled into the step over here lane over 3 ridiculously simple things: what's in your wallet, what happens at the border, and how your bag is packed. So if you're the type of person who thinks, I've flown a million times, I'm fine, this is the year that confidence gets stress tested. In this video, I'm running through 11 changes that actually decide whether you board, whether you get in, and whether security leaves you alone, plus a quick checklist you can use in about 5 minutes to avoid the messy surprises. And don't skip number 10, because it explains why a flight can suddenly get longer or more expensive, even when you did everything right. Let's start in the US with change number 1, the ID story. If you miss that, the trip can end before you ever reach the gate. So let's start where the trip can die before it even begins. Domestic flights in the US. Real ID is the new gatekeeper, which means your old driver's license can look totally normal right up until TSA says, we can't take that. The quick check is simple. A star near the top means you're good. No star, or your card says something like, federal limits apply, that's when people get stuck doing the wallet scramble while the line keeps moving. Here's the 2026 twist. Starting the 1st of February 2026, TSA is rolling out ConfirmID, a paid backup verification option if you show up without an acceptable ID. It's $45 per traveler, and it only covers a short 10-day window. And it's not guaranteed. If they can't verify you, you still don't fly. This is where families feel it. Kids under 18 usually don't need ID for domestic flights, but the adults do, and if 2 adults are unprepared, that fee stacks fast. So the easiest move is also the least dramatic. If you fly more than once or twice a year, get real ID handled, or keep a passport as your always works backup. ConfirmID isn't a strategy. It's what you use when you're already standing there realizing you've got a problem. After this video, check your wallet. Star or no star. Drop it in the comments. I swear half the people find out the hard way. And if you think getting through TSA means you're in the clear, the 2026 refund rules are the next surprise, because they can either save your trip or quietly torch your wallet when a flight goes sideways. That little notification that says, we updated your itinerary, can cost you more than the ticket did, because airlines have gotten really good at making a messy change look close enough. In the new travel year, refund rules in the US are firmer and clearer. If your flight gets canceled or changed in a way that truly disrupts the trip, you're not supposed to be stuck begging for your own money back. The trap is what happens in the moment. They offer a voucher, a credit, maybe a shiny rebook option, and you tap accept just to make the problem go away. Once you accept, it can look like you agreed to the new plan. So if you don't want the new itinerary, don't accept the replacement price. What counts as a big enough change? Think 3 or more hours for domestic flights, or 6 or more hours for international flights, whether that means an earlier departure or a later arrival. It can also include an airport change, an extra connection, or a cabin downgrade. Those are the kinds of changes that can trigger refund rights if you choose not to travel. Now, the weird wrinkle through the 30th of June 2026. DOT is pausing enforcement in one narrow case. When the airline only changes the flight number, you're rebooked onto the same flight, and there's no significant change or delay. When this happens, your best move is a tiny proof kit. Screenshot the change, save the emails, keep your boarding pass, and hold on to receipts for paid add-ons you didn't actually get. Okay, refunds are the money story. The next part is the entry story, and why some travelers are starting to avoid any itinerary that touches the US, even a quick transit. Traveling through the US lately feels heavier, right? Not because of one giant ban, because there are more moments where your trip can slow down for totally normal people. What's driving the extra friction? First, there's a major policy shift. A presidential proclamation expanding travel restrictions took effect the 1st of January 2026, changing visa eligibility for nationals of certain countries and categories. It mainly affects people outside the US who didn't already have a valid visa before that date. You might not be the target traveler, but your plans can still get hit if a friend, partner, or family member is meeting you in the States or traveling on your itinerary. And that's the visible layer. Then there's the layer that changes the whole airport vibe. The State Department announced a pause on immigrant visa issuance for nationals of 75 countries, effective the 21st of January 2026. That's immigrant visas, the move to the US kind, so it's not aimed at tourists. Still, it tends to make the system feel more cautious overall. Travelers show up tense, check-in agents ask an extra question, arrivals can feel heavier. What do you do with all that? 3 moves. Apply early, match your passport details perfectly, and if you renew your passport, recheck anything tied to the old number, ESTA approvals, accounts, even the passport info sitting inside your booking. And if your itinerary touches the US, give yourself more breathing room than you normally would, especially through big arrival airports like JFK, LAX, or ATL. And once you leave the US, it gets even more literal. In the UK, missing one digital approval can mean you don't get past the gate at all. If you're heading to the UK in the new travel year, there's a new reality check. Your passport alone might not be enough to even get on the plane. Starting the 25th of February 2026, the UK starts strictly enforcing its electronic travel authorization, ETA for visa-free visitors, including travelers from the US, Canada, and a long list of other countries. And airlines aren't treating it like a suggestion. If your passport needs an ETA and you don't have one, you can get stopped before you ever leave the gate area. Think of ETA like a digital green light that's tied to your passport. You apply online, you pay the fee, currently £16, and once it's approved, it covers multiple trips for up to 2 years or until that passport expires. And yes, use the official UK ETA app. For most people, it's a do it in 5 minutes, move on with your life kind of task. But don't celebrate too early. Here's the most common mistake. You renew your passport, you feel responsible, and your ETA stops matching. It's linked to your passport number, so when that number changes, the system treats it like a different document, and the check-in screen is not going to negotiate with you about it. Transit is where people gamble. Some airside transits are temporarily exempt, but it's under review. If you're connecting, don't guess. Check gov.uk for your situation and confirm with your airline. And one quick anti-scam reminder, fake ETA help sites pop up fast. The real fee is £16. If a site is trying to charge you £50 for priority processing and VIP review, that's not help. That's a donation. Stick to the official Gov UK route. Before we move on, have you ever been blocked from boarding over a document you didn't even know you needed? If you have, leave a comment and share what happened. I'm curious what caught you. Do you collect passport stamps, like little trophies? Like proof you actually went places and didn't just talk about it? If you do, Europe's about to change the game. The Schengen Zone's new entry-exit system, EES, started operating on the 12th of October 2025, then rolls out in phases, aiming to be fully operational around the 10th of April 2026. And once you run into it, the border experience looks different for non-EU travelers. Picture it. The first time you enter under EES, you're not just handing over a passport. You're scanning your face and giving fingerprints, like a mild sci-fi moment, except you're holding a carry-on and trying not to drop your phone. That first-time enrollment is exactly why early rollout can feel slower. After you're in the system, future entries often can move quicker, but it still depends on the airport, the crowds, and how well the kiosks are behaving that day. The biggest feel change is simple: fewer stamps. A lot of travelers are going to flip through their passport after Europe and think, wait, where's my proof? The record still exists, it just lives in a database now. One practical warning that matters a lot for connections. If you're connecting through a Schengen airport, say Paris or Frankfurt, you'll do EES at your first point of entry into Schengen. That's where lines can pile up in the early phase. So if you used to risk a tight layover, add a real buffer now, at least another hour, and closer to 90 minutes in peak season. And this tees up the next change perfectly. Europe isn't only scanning you at the border, it wants a yes before you even leave home. So EES is the part you feel at the border, the scan, the photo, the fingerprints. ETIAS is different. It happens before you even pack. The EU says ETIAS is expected to start operations in the last quarter of 2026 for travelers who currently enter visa-free for short stays. So for a lot of Americans, that just show up with a passport routine gains one extra step, an online pre-approval before you travel. It's designed to be quick and mostly automated. The fee is set at 20 euros, and the EU says certain groups, like travelers under 18 or over 70, won't pay the fee. Once approved, it's valid for 3 years, or until your passport expires, whichever happens first. And remember, ETIAS isn't a visa and it doesn't guarantee entry. Border officers still decide. Sounds smooth, right? But there's one detail that can ruin your day. ETIAS is tied to the exact passport you apply with. One wrong digit, one swap date, or a passport renewal later. And that approval doesn't follow you. The airline can see the mismatch at check-in. And when ETIAS rolls out, confusion is going to create scams, guaranteed. So if you see a lookalike site screaming, "Apply today," and charging extra processing fees, that's not a shortcut, that's a trap. Apply only through the EU's official ETIAS channels once the system actually opens, and ignore the flashy seals and countdown timers trying to rush you. With ETIAS in the mix, Europe isn't only changing how you enter, it's also changing the travel math inside Europe. You know that little mental spreadsheet people do in Europe? What counts as Schengen days? Which currency you'll need? How many ATM fees you're about to donate? That math is getting shakier. First, Cyprus. Right now, Cyprus is still not fully inside the Schengen area. So slow travelers and digital nomads have been doing this move for years. Spend 3 months around mainland Europe, hop to Cyprus, soak up the Eastern Mediterranean for another stretch, then pop back into the continent and keep going. But Cyprus's government has been publicly pushing a 2026 goal for Schengen entry. And if Cyprus joins Schengen, that little trick stops being a trick. Time spent in Cyprus would fall under the same 90 days in any 180-day period rule, so that Switch Islands and Refresh My Clock plan wouldn't work the way people are used to. But it's not just dates. Money changes too. Bulgaria joined the euro area on the 1st of January 2026, so travelers will see euros rolling out and pricing shifting. It's convenient, fewer currency swaps, less leftover mystery bills in your wallet, but early changeovers can come with the classic traveler tax, prices that feel like they got quietly rounded up, so pay attention to totals, keep receipts when something feels off, and don't let "it's only a few euros" happen 10 times a day. And that's the theme of this change. Europe gets easier on paper while forcing you to be sharper with days and money, which sets up the next shift perfectly because some places aren't trying to make travel easier at all. They're trying to slow the crowd down. Have you ever planned a Europe trip like, "we'll figure it out when we land"? That style is starting to come with a price tag, sometimes literally. Venice is the clearest example. The city confirmed the day tripper access fee is back on select peak days in 2026. 5 euros if you book early, 10 euros if you wait, and it's built to manage the rush of just for the day visitors. It's not about punishing you for visiting. It's about making the most popular places feel less like a human traffic jam. But Venice isn't the only place tightening the vibe. More destinations like Barcelona, Amsterdam are nudging travel away from last-minute chaos. More reservations, more caps, more show-proof moments, especially during peak season. And it's not just what you do, it's where you sleep. Picture this, you book a perfect rental in Ibiza, everything looks legit, you're already planning the sunset dinner, and then the listing gets pulled, or your check-in turns into a mess because enforcement is cracking down harder. Spain's been ramping up pressure in tourist hotspots like Ibiza with more inspections and stricter registration expectations for short-term rentals. Now zoom out, because this is bigger than one country. Across the EU, platforms are being pushed to help authorities spot illegal rentals faster, instead of letting mystery apartments blend into the feed like nothing's wrong. And even the way you enter a rental is changing. Milan is banning those public space key lock boxes starting January 2026. So the whole grab a code, grab a key, disappear into an apartment building routine is getting harder in some cities. Would you rather pay a small fee and deal with more rules for a hotspot, or avoid the crowd entirely and pick a calmer city? Leave your plan in the comments. I want to see where everyone's headed. After all this city stuff, Europe hits you with an airport curveball again. And yep, it's liquids. One of the fastest ways to ruin your airport mood is watching security toss a perfectly good bottle of sunscreen because you packed based on what worked at a different airport last time. Some airports were moving toward allowing bigger liquids with newer scanners. People got used to it. Full-size toiletries started showing up in carry-ons again. Then the rules swung back. So going forward, the safest mindset is simple. Assume the 100 milliliter limit is back, unless your exact airport and terminal clearly says otherwise. And the inconsistency is real. Sometimes it's not even airport to airport, it's terminal to terminal. Even at a huge place like London Heathrow, Terminal 2 can run a different process than Terminal 5, depending on what equipment is installed and active that day. So pack like you're going through the strictest version. Keep liquids small and easy to pull out. If you're picky about toiletries, travel sizes help, and solid options help even more. Anything full size, buy it after security, or check it. Medication or baby items should be accessible and easy to explain. But even if your documents are perfect and your bag is packed flawlessly, global shifts can still reroute your flight, change your timing, and spike your ticket price overnight. I'll break that down in the next section. Your documents are perfect, your bag is packed like a textbook, but your trip still changes while you're sleeping. What are you supposed to do with that? That's the reality when politics starts moving faster than travel plans. US policy shifts, public statements, policy signals, and how agencies respond can ripple into travel in ways most people don't think about. One day, it's headlines about tariffs or pressure around places like Greenland, and suddenly, people start rethinking trips they felt totally fine about a month ago. Another day, it's something more practical, like Mexico-US routes getting frozen or canceled, which can shrink options and quietly push prices up on certain city pairs. And airlines are always playing this safe airspace game. When tensions spike anywhere, routes get redrawn fast. That can mean longer flights, fewer options, and higher prices on certain city pairs. So what do you do as a normal traveler? Keep it simple. Leave more buffer on long connections, especially if your itinerary touches the US or any region that can flare up. When the trip matters, flexibility on changes is basically insurance. And do one quick check about 48 hours before you fly. Airline alerts and official advisories. So you're adjusting early, not at the gate. After all this, IDs, digital approvals, crowd fees, liquid roulette, routes that can change overnight, travelers are optimizing for one thing: less friction. People aren't only asking, where should I go? They're asking, how do I make this trip feel good? So the shoulder season is winning. Same cities, less chaos. April and May, September and October. You still get the museums, the food, the views, without feeling like you're trapped in a theme park line you didn't sign up for. Secondary cities are having a moment too. Instead of the biggest headline stop, travelers are picking the next city over, like Lyon instead of Paris, or Bologna instead of Rome. You still get the culture and the food, but with fewer tour groups and prices that don't make you regret opening your banking app. And then there's the trend that sounds funny until you live it: decision fatigue. More people are paying for curated trips and smoother itineraries because fewer moving parts is its own kind of luxury when rules can shift fast. So if you're planning 2026 travel, the win isn't just getting there. It's getting there without fighting the trip the whole time. Calmer dates, more space, fewer problems before breakfast. And with that, you're ready for 2026. Travel isn't harder because you forgot how to travel. It's harder because the rules are moving faster. A small detail can now stop you at security, block you at boarding, or turn a simple trip into a bunch of extra steps. So before your next flight, do 3 quick checks. Look at your ID, look at your passport, and don't book connections so tight you're basically auditioning for the Olympics. Now I'm curious, what change surprised you most in this video? Drop it in the comments. Your answer might save someone else's trip. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and share it with the friend who always says, "We'll figure it out at the airport." Safe travels, and may your liquids survive security.